So I've got a quick bonus video for you all. This time we're looking at AJ's upload of the beginning of the Kent Hovind versus Karen Bartelt debate. Now this happened many years ago. This is pre-arrest Hovind. This is Pensacola CSE, where Kent was certainly a lot less angry, but he's running the same script now that he was 30 years ago. It's crazy. Um, This is interesting because, as AJ puts it, Karen Bartelt destroys Ken Hovind because she absolutely did. She just decimates him in her opening. And it was so bad that Kent, when he put this one into his video series, because apparently he was selling videos of his debates, he had to add commentary to this one. And that to me is just an outright admission that he completely failed, and he knows he failed. Because were he such a good debater and were he prepared so thoroughly, he would have been able to address those in the debate, and secondary commentary would generally not be necessary. Maybe correct a few things here or there, or go into some details if he felt like it, but it wouldn't need to be like this. But this is what he decided to go with, and props to him for at least showing the debate, because he could have easily just ignored it, never uploaded it, or never made the videos of it or anything. But he decided to include it, but with that admission that he fucked up royally. Had he just not addressed anything and let the debate stand on its own merit, it wouldn't be as obvious. But let's get right to it.
Two men.
So there's going to be a bit of occasional notes from AJ in here. Like this one. Yeah, she's a woman. Yeah, of course, at the time, Kent couldn't even have an intro that, acknowledged that he might be debating a woman. Because from Kent's worldview, women don't know anything. He's misogynistic as all get out. So this one's pretty fucking funny. It's like, yeah, you might want to have rethought that, but you don't give a shit about anyone but yourself, so,
Two philosophies. Two choices.
And that right there is completely fucked up. He wants to equate being religious with peace, even though I love bringing up that the word kill is in his version of the Bible over 200 times. But he wants to equate the science of evolution, just, biological descent with inherited modification, use any definition you want in the scientific realm for biology, any proper definition, I should say. He wants to equate that with, people being shitty sometimes. And, yeah, I'm not going to comment on the particular imagery chosen for this pain section, but you'll notice a theme. And, yeah, that seems a little bit, careful with that edge there, Kent.
One decision. You decide.
And so we'll get Ken Hovind's little intro to the video itself, then the video proper from the debate starts playing, and he will interject his commentary where he sees fit. Um, I'll try to let this one go pretty quick. It is only 18 and a half minutes. Might not have that much to say, but it'll be fun to watch together, even though this is a pre-recorded video. Let's get to it. Oh, and of course the disclaimer at the front, we're not going to prosecute you if you copy the video, but consider giving us money. Money, please.
We hope you enjoy this particular debate. This will be debate number 9 of our series. This is me against Dr. Karen Bartelt. In the early 90s, I was on a radio program in Morton, Illinois, kind of a talk show type thing, and Karen Bartelt called in and was saying how that creation was not true and evolution was true. And then later that week, or shortly thereafter, I did a debate against a preacher who had become an atheist, a Church of Christ preacher who gave up on Christianity. And that was a very fascinating debate, and Karen Bartelt was there. And she wrote in quite a lengthy letter to the editor, which is currently on the website. If you look up Bartelt or Hovind, you'll find her letter on there, complaining about my poor visuals being of poor quality and things like that, and saying how that evolution is a fact. And so I was very happy when she agreed to debate me publicly. Most of her debate, as we did this one in Peoria, Illinois, at a Unitarian church, most of her objections seemed to be personal. She was objecting.
And see, Kent has not changed that you can't dare criticize him when he bases his entire sense of authority on his, his joke of a doctorate. You can't attack that and attack the shit he says. No, no, no. You're just ad hominem him because you're attacking the person, not the. It's ridiculous. Kent, you're wrong, and you're a liar. And the fact that your degree is known to be bullshit, and the shit you were doing around this time that later got found out, the tax evasion and all that, plus other stuff you've done, it should erode confidence that people have in you to be a good, genuine person. Which adds to the validity of the idea that what you think, what you're preaching is complete bullshit, and that your intentions are not good. Because they aren't. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done all the shit you did. At the time this is recorded, you were structuring transactions. Who knows what else? But you're the good guy. Right.
To me personally, to my degree, to my credentials, et cetera, as opposed to dealing with the subject matter. But we think you really enjoy.
Yeah, Kent, when you portray yourself as a doctor and give yourself a sense of authority, if that doctorate is effectively worthless, if it came from a diploma mill, it should be attacked. Because you're trying to use it as something to prop up the value of your arguments. Now wipe that shit-eating grin off your face and prepare to get fucking owned.
This one. This is going to be the only debate that we've ever done that I'm going to stop from time to time and put in my comments, edit things in.
And now he does that like every other fucking debate. I gotta do a whack an atheist on this person because they proved how stupid I am, and I gotta whack them, and I gotta call them stupid, and then I gotta get mad when they counter it. You can't talk about my convictions or anything, but I can call you stupid all I want, Hovind.
Into this debate. And anyone certainly welcome to schedule. I'd be glad to come debate against any 2 or 3 or 4 professors at a time, as long as each side gets equal time. There is absolutely no evidence whatsoever for the general theory of evolution. It is a religion. It is something people choose to believe in spite of the lack of evidence.
See, broken record. He always says this, just outright denial of every massive piece of evidence that's there, which Bartelt will bring up. He, of course, keeps on saying it's a religion for whatever value that has. That's only useful in his narrative that, the schools teach it at taxpayer expense, and taxes can't be used for churches, even though they basically are, with the tax-exempt status of churches, but we're not getting into that. And then, of course, saying that a religion is just something you believe in when the nature of religion is far more intricate than that. As I always say, Hovind completely lacks nuance with anything. It doesn't exist in his view of reality, so.
And I'd sure like to challenge you to rethink what you believe. We hope you enjoy this one. Thank you.
Fuck you, Kent.
Many people have asked me why I decided to appear with Kent Hovind, and a few discouraged me from doing this. My reason for being here is solely that I believe Hovind is a proliferator of scientific illiteracy, and I want to do what I can to make the public aware of the fallacies of his arguments. Hovind might say that evolution is a religion. Well, he's entitled to his opinion, but it's clearly been stated in the 1994 Pelosi decision that evolution defines a biological concept, and Pelosi's complaint was rejected because the Supreme Court has held unequivocally that while belief in a divine creator of the universe is a religious belief, the scientific theory that higher forms of life have evolved from lower forms is not.
So, Kent, what's your argument? Is the Supreme Court magically wrong? Is this yet another case where when they say something that you agree with, it's right, but when it's something you don't agree with, they're automatically wrong? Pure pick and choose on stuff. I don't agree with the Supreme Court decisions all the time. especially now, given how lopsided it is. But we're not getting into politics here right now. But it's been legislated to not be a religion. So you're wrong, Kent. Shut the fuck up about it. You're lying. Last I checked, that was one of your magical crimes against God, was lying. But it's okay if you're lying for Jesus. I forgot.
So, definition's fine, but the courts aren't buying it. Well, he might then go on about evolution being only a theory. I'm sure sick and tired of hearing that one. You're darn right it's a theory.
Yeah, that is the most absolutely annoying thing that scientific illiterates say. Just full stop. You don't know what theory means in science. You're obviously not qualified to talk about this stuff, even at a layperson level. You know less than nothing about it, so shut the fuck up. Your opinion means nothing if you say it's just a theory. You're a fucking idiot. And Karen goes into detail on that.
And there are some other things, natural phenomena, that are also only theories. The sphericity of the Earth, gravity, atomic theory, electric theory. They're all very good theories. Now, what is a theory? A good theory is a hypothesis which has been subjected to many tests. They are never proven absolutely true. They're based upon long-term observation and correlation. They're not believed but accepted provisionally. They're strengthened as data from different disciplines are explained, and they make predictions that can be tested. And the evidence showing that evolution has occurred is stronger than that which shows that the planets go around the sun.
Now, I absolutely loved this. That moment was when I decided, I should do a video on this now as I was rewatching it. Not only is that explanation of theory just so perfect, but to bring up that, and it's true that biological evolution is supported by more facets of science, by more aspects, more disciplines than, even the orbital mechanics of the solar system is. It's just so wild to think about. And I love that. That's the stuff I love about science, is these weird niches that are just so incredibly well understood versus stuff that's a little more vague yet simultaneously so much easier to understand. We don't know how gravity works. We don't know what the force carrier is. We've defined it as a graviton. We defined the specifications the particle should have, but we haven't actually found the graviton. We don't know how gravity works. Has to have a force carrier. Should have a force carrier. But gravity's pretty fucking obvious because it's got a nice macro effect. But something that takes a long time, like biological evolution, you're not going to notice it as easy unless you see the historic evidence. There you go into geology. There you go into paleontology. Oh, look, you're getting into all these different branches of stuff. Sorry, I'm just rambling a bit, but it's just so beautiful. Scientific method is just... love it.
Because it comes from a wider variety of areas.
What Dr. Bartelt is doing here is what's called bait and switch in advertising. She's giving one definition of evolution and saying it's just, the theory of evolution is just like gravity and things like that. What they mean by that definition of evolution is microevolution, minor changes.
No, Kent. What they mean is what they mean as defined by the scientists, not what you've decided to call it. You're not the arbiter of what the definition of evolution is. It's another one of those things you've been doing forever that's really fucking stupid, is trying to equate every major aspect of universal origins, planetary origins, abiogenesis, etc., into something that's already been defined by the people who do it. That would be like me trying to define your God explicitly. No, I'm going to use your definition and then hold your feet to the fire when it comes to nuances about that definition. I'm not just going to make up some shit to make your God sound stupid. But you sure want to do that to try to make the concept of evolution turn from, descent with inherent modification to all this shit to try to help promote your idea that it's a religion, which, again, it's not.
But what they do is they sneak in a lot. Once people accept that definition, they sneak in all sorts of other things that have to do with macroevolution. So watch for the bait and switch tactic, which is of course illegal to do in advertising. You can't advertise a new Lincoln for $10,000, and when you show up to buy it, you find out it's a skateboard or a Toyota. That's illegal. By giving two
Boy, for a guy who at this time was committing tax fraud, he sure loved even then to bring up what things are legal and illegal.
different, by not giving the other real definition of evolution, they do this. She mentions
She explained it exactly as it's defined. You just object to it because it doesn't allow you to run your stupid script. Get the fuck over it, Kent.
her purpose is to fight against my scientific illiteracy. That is precisely my purpose in life, is to fight against the illiteracy, scientifically, in the theory of evolution.
Translation. Nuh-uh, you.
It is bankrupt. There is no evidence to support it at all. So watch for this.
One of the frequently asked questions at Hovind's website is, how would you answer critics like Madsen, Babinski, and Bartelt who have written bad things about you? Bad things, Kent? Well, Dave Madsen has written this point-by-point refutation of Hovind's young Earth arguments. This is available. You can download this from the web.
I miss those days when it was just called the web. Because the World Wide Web is actually a specific layer of the internet on a whole. You know, I won't get into it, but I love the other elements of the internet. We'll put it that way. Stuff like Gopher, FTP, IRC, I love bulletin board system constructs, net accessible telnetting and all that jazz. Now SSHing into systems and getting into a BBS. Fucking love it. So it warms my heart to hear people say the web instead of the usual thing now where they say it on, do this online, which is accurate, but still just it's too modern for me. Or what's worse, people saying shit like they order something offline when they mean to say off of online. Or otherwise they should say ordered it online. It's like, what the hell's wrong with you? Stop saying that. It's wrong. Offline means not connected to the network. But I digress. Don't get me started on accuracy or lack thereof in the tech space. I could go on and on. We're here to laugh at Hovind and watch this awesome woman tear him apart.
Ed Babinski has written this smaller pamphlet detailing some evangelical Christians who think that the earth is old.
And I just love that 3 decades ago, people were tearing into Kent in the same degree we are now. It hasn't changed. That's wonderful. The methods have changed, but the goal and end results are the same.
And this is available from Mr. Babinski.
Karen, these comments that these fellows have made, Babinski and Madsen, I have read very carefully, and I certainly appreciate anyone who criticizes my ministry.
You can read, Kent? The way you do your slides, I'm beginning to wonder.
Critics can be your best friend. They can show you things that you're saying that are wrong, and I have definitely made some changes because of their comments.
No, you haven't.
But if there's any particular individual one you'd like me to comment on, I'd certainly be glad to, on the books that these guys have written about me. The answers that they give to my questions and the criticism they give is absolutely silly, and I felt was not even worth an answer. I'd certainly be glad to debate them or anybody else publicly, and I'd be glad to come debate at it.
Yeah, I won't respond to their stuff, but I'll debate you, bro. Dude, just fucking respond to what they have to say. Why does it have to be a fucking formal debate? Oh, right, because then you can monetize it and use it however you wish. You can do your little thing with it. Sell your fucking videotapes of your shit. God, I can't believe there's actually people out there who would buy all these tapes, watch them, and take this guy seriously. Even then, let alone now.
Any university or college that you know of. I think anyone who reads their answers or reads their comments with an open mind, if they have any questions about it, please call me. I'll be glad to answer.
Ah, yes, and the classic claim that someone who doesn't question something is as closed-minded. Love that shit. It can't be that the idea has already been thought, Earth creationism, nah, Earth isn't young. That it's been addressed, that it's been thought about, and that it's been thoroughly rejected properly. You're not going to go back and rethink something unless you have good reason to. And no one has good reason to think they're 6,000 years old, nor do they have good reason to think it's flat. Again, surprise that Ken Hovind doesn't think the world is flat. Out of all the crazy shit he believes, that's the thing he doesn't believe. And yet he's a sovereign citizen, and most of them seem to be flat earthers as well. But I digress.
Answer anything they have written. I just didn't feel like it was worth wasting time to answer that big book. Like Nehemiah, in the book of Nehemiah, he was asked to come down and stop his great work while they discussed some things with him. His enemies asked him to do that. He said, I'm doing a great work, I cannot come down. So I haven't taken time to answer all their critics, but I certainly would be willing to if you'd like to call on the phone, but I will not respond in writing because it simply takes too long. Thank you.
But you'll have a debate with somebody. You'll schedule a debate and fly out somewhere. That's hilarious. Up yours, Kent. You just don't want a public record of this shit. If you do want a public record of it, it'd be a matter of something that you can weave your little tapestry of garbage on. You know, your whole shtick is trying to make yourself and your position look good as opposed to actually providing anything valid. Which means you'll do up to and include lying constantly, which is about all you can do. But I digress.
My lone contributions were a letter to the Peoria Journal-Star in 1993 disputing some of Hovind's assertions, and a few calls to the media after I found out that Hovind had misrepresented himself by saying he had scheduled a debate with Stephen Jay Gould.
You know, I just want to point out that 1993 was a pretty wild year. You had events like Waco happen, but it's also the year I got a Sega Genesis as a kid. So, you know, things happen.
Karen, the church that was having me speak in Boston did indeed contact Stephen Gould, or told me that they had, and told me that they had a debate scheduled for Stephen Gould. I did not misrepresent myself. I honestly thought there was one coming to pass, and I'm still willing to debate Stephen Jay Gould. So that was not a misrepresentation. Please don't say things like that.
Why do we say these bad things? Because Hovind's website and seminar notebook are monuments to scientific illiteracy. They can
I love that. Oh, monuments of scientific illiteracy. If that doesn't sum up Kent Hovind, I don't know what does. Perfect.
contain incorrect information, outdated information, and misrepresentations of scientific principles, all of them straw men. Hovind calls his mistakes gnats.
Now keep in mind, this is 30 years ago, just about, when this happened, when this that we're watching was recorded. And they're calling his stuff outdated then. And some of his slides, his opinions, his things haven't changed in that 30 plus years. So when people like me or AJ criticize the age of some of the, some of his sources, we're just on the tail end of decades of people criticizing how outdated his info is. It's kind of just incredible.
And let's see what you think. The geologic column is a concept fundamental to geology and is one of those big pieces of evidence that supports biological evolution. These sedimentary layers are laid down such that the lowest layer is normally the oldest and contains the least complex life forms. As one goes to higher and higher layers, we see the emergence of more complex life forms.
And that's something that Hovind never addresses. He talks about a flood burying things. He talks about things, being sorted by their buoyancy, density, all that crap, and that, oh yeah, the birds would have been up high, and other smarter animals would have climbed up where the stupider ones would have done. But he never addresses the fact that the intrinsic complexity, something he loves to obsess over, that the intrinsic complexity of organisms decreases the further down you go. That you see more simple, more basal forms of what existed up above in that strata. That you quite literally get a chronological progression of life that's consistent everywhere. So what's wild about it is that it stays consistent. You're gonna find certain creatures in certain layers. Again, depending on the area of the planet you're on, but regardless, you're never going to find Homo sapien fossils with a fucking dinosaur. It's not going to happen.
Accusations concerning the geologic column abound in Hovind's publications. He asserts that the geologic column does not exist in the world anywhere except in textbooks, and that it was made up by evolutionists to discredit the Bible.
Boy, where ever heard that one before?
What is the reality? Well, first of all, a complete geologic column exists in North Dakota and at least 26 other
God, even 30 years ago, these things were train wrecks. Just, run out of time, you run out of time. It fucking sucks. Okay, it was about her slide. Again, it's been a while since I'd watched this, so I didn't remember. I noticed the slide had gone out, though. Also, let's note that that's an actual slide projector. These aren't PowerPoint presentations on a computer being projected. I mean, that technology was totally around 30 years ago, digital projectors. Well, projectors that can be hooked up to a computer and display a computer's output were expensive but available then. No, these are actual slides, and that's just fucking cool.
A complete geologic column exists in North Dakota and at least 26 other basins of the world.
And and I'm sorry for interrupting, but if you're old enough to remember overhead projectors, I don't know and doubt they're still used readily in schools, at least any school with reasonable funding. Overhead projectors were the best. Your dry erase marker on that little lithographic cell, it's basically like a dang animation cell. Projects the light through, set of a mirror or two focal lenses and a mirror would have it project over and be oriented correctly. It did the proper flipping for it. It was so fucking cool. I love those. I want one. I don't know what I'd use it for, but I just think they're freaking awesome. That's one of those things I miss from school. That and the old Power PC based Macintoshes. But I actually have a old PowerBook G3 that used to be owned by the school district I went to through my school years. The school district effectively no longer exists, but it's actually got it stamped in there, and I just think that's super cool. Just, very fitting. And for a machine from 1998, it still works a champ. Like a champ. Mac OS 9, telnet into some stuff, still got a modem, floppy drive, hell yeah. I'm in hog heaven for some classic computing insanity. Right, back to this.
Was it devised by evolutionists? No. It was devised by Christian creationist geologists like William Smith. William Smith was a creationist. He devised the geologic column in the early 1800s when Darwin was a baby.
Now, I normally don't like bringing up what affiliation a given person involved in any of this actually had, because usually it's, I dare say it's usually done as a case of poisoning the well. But here, to counter the idea present, it's definitely valid. And it's just funny that the geologic column would be yet another creationist thing, just like taxonomy. You bring up taxonomy, and Kent wants to be like, Carlos Linnaeus was a Christian, by the way, and it's like, that doesn't matter, but hey, if you want to play that game, geologic column was done by Christians as well. What's your point? It doesn't change the fact that it exists. It doesn't change the fact that Linnaeus's taxa system, upon being modified and adapted to better accurately be useful for classification as we understand the way things need to be classified today, works beautifully to describe animals, put them in the animals, plants, what have you, put them in the nested hierarchies, and extinct species we find as well as extant can be categorized this way, and things work really, really well. It's funny how that is. But it doesn't matter who came up with it, what their affiliation was. What matters is that it works.
The geologic column was in wide use by 1830, almost 30 years before Darwin even wrote Origin of the Species. Now, most places do not have a complete geologic column. Illinois does not. And in some places there's been erosion. Some places there never was any rock in the first place. But as in this rock cut, sometimes the layers are folded. And sometimes they're even heaved up on younger strata, but none of these facts invalidates using the geologic column for determining the relative age of fossils. And anyone who has taken an introductory college course in geology knows this. Do evolutionists construct the geologic column? No, it's field geologists, often those in the petroleum industry, and they often know little of evolution and could care less. Here is a geologic map of Kansas constructed by oil geologists.
That's a thing to really consider, is that people taking advantage of geography and the like might not give a flying fuck about, evolution, biology. That's not their job. In this case, again, the oil industry, that they use the fact that the planet is as old as it is and that it behaves the way it does and that geologic strata behave the way they do, were formed the way they were, and should contain what they contain to be able to find deposits of oil. It's amazing. They can predict where to look, and they find it. But Kent just hand waves away all that matters of it for his argument, but ignores that the same science is used to fuel up his stupid jeeps all the time. At least modern day Hovind. This Hovind, this was a different Hovind for a different millennia. Hovind.
Well, the geologic column has contributed to what we know about horse evolution, and here is what Hovind has to say. He says, they have taken critters from all over the world, South America, Europe, and Asia, and put them together in a predetermined area. They have already decided to start off with the smallest to largest animals. That is not the way they are found. So what Hovind is suggesting here is that scientists are being purposely deceitful. And if that's true, why don't you come up with a list of specific scientists and exactly what fossils you think are out of order? Your English teachers back at EP High would have a heyday correcting your vague allegations. He continues, they find them in different layers, but they have it in the textbooks that the Eohippus slowly changes into Equus, the modern horse. That's baloney. The only baloney here is what Hovind has written, so much that you might consider a hot link to the Oscar Mayer website. Hovind clearly doesn't understand.
Oh, man. I'm sorry, I'm just relishing that early internet lingo. Hot link. I forgot for a second that was their proper name, that a link on a web page is a hot link. It's just taken as standard that on a web page there'll be 1,000 things to click and lots of fields to interact with. We forget how static the early web was. And sometimes I miss that it's not like that much anymore. Good times. Anyway, back to this.
Understand that horses don't change into other horses, but that species branch. And here is a slide showing most of the fossil forms associated with horse evolution. Hovind again says, modern horses are found in layers lower than the Eohippus. Eohippus, Equus. If there is a particular Eocene Equus fossil, I challenge Hovind to submit his findings to a reputable scientific journal.
Translation, put up or shut up, Kent. Well done, Karen.
And finally, he says, the Eohippus is nothing more than the hyrax running around South America today. Oh, really? The hyrax is not a horse at all. It's not even in the same order. And it doesn't live in South America. It lives in Asia Minor, in Ethiopia, and was known in the Bible as a coney. Does this look like a horse to you? Sometimes ancestral traits show up in modern forms, as one sees in this three-toed horse. Well, Hovind has a lot to say about feathers, too. Hovind does not know the difference between the chemical that gives carrots their color and the chemical that makes feathers and scales.
I think he still makes that mistake to this day, saying the wrong thing, which I can understand. For some reason, instead of etymology of words, I would accidentally say entomology of words. Entomology being the study of insects. Did I say study of birds or study of words there? If I said birds, I meant words. I'm thinking I got feathers on the brain. But yeah, a funny little flub that upon being corrected, I tried to make sure to correct. And now I bring up as a fine example of where I was, just innocently wrong about something. It just happened that way. And I took to the correction. Kent will never admit he's wrong and will never correct his mistakes. Ever. Hence why he's still making them 3 decades later.
In this excerpt from his website, he calls keratin carotene. A real scientist would know the difference between the two of these, and yet he wants you to believe that he knows something about feathers.
Yeah, Kent, you're going to be scrutinized. You're going to have your feet held to the fire, and kindergarten mistakes like that ruin any credibility you're trying to create for yourself.
Well, what about feathers? Hovind claims that there are no intermediate forms between feathers and scales, that feathers are very complex, that they came from different genes, and that no missing links have ever been found. Feathers look complex, but they're actually very simple serial repeats.
Once again, another thing I like to bring up along with nuance is emergent complexity. That simple processes can repeat and create something that appears complex but is fundamentally simple. Just many, 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 many simple stages applied together. There is a difference between that and intrinsic complexity.
And an interesting experiment lately is that by using a mutant form of an enzyme, scientists were actually able to induce the growth of feathers on chicken feet where scales normally would be found. There is not that much difference between scales and feathers. There is also a perfect intermediate, Longisquama, a fossil form bearing the intermediates between scales and feathers, and this fossil form has been around for 30 years. But Hovind doesn't really want scales and feathers to be different because he doesn't want to see any transitions between birds, dinosaurs, and reptiles. He wants immutable kinds. And here's what he has to say. First of all, regarding the lung, reptiles have a sac-type lung, and birds have a tubular-type lung. This is correct, and this betrays their ancestry. Birds have a lung core and air sacs that get into even bones. The bones get attacked by these air sacs, and canals and holes are left. What other animals possess such features? Sauropod dinosaurs, theropod dinosaurs, and Archaeopteryx. Very good example of a transitional form.
And that's another thing I love, that the respiratory systems of dinosaurs were what we'd consider avian today. It's like, why is it like that, Kent? Common designer? Why aren't they all completely different, completely special and unique? They're not. It's as if everything runs off some basic templates. That an all perfect, intelligent, perfectly creative designer, like y'all act like God is, wouldn't be running on. It wouldn't be so limited, so boring, so bland as to come up with just one little template and just work from that. Because we come up with far more creative, more fanciful creatures than clearly exist in life. So are we smarter? Are we more creative than your God? Apparently so, especially since we created God. But you don't accept reality.
What about the heart? He says reptiles have a 3-chambered heart and birds have a 4-chambered heart. Well, wrong again. A crocodilian, alligators and crocodiles have 4-chambered hearts. They are very different from that of a squamate, lizard and snake, and turtle. This is exactly what one would expect if birds and crocodiles descended from a common ancestor. This is
I didn't know about that one. Again, I didn't remember it definitely from when I watched this last time, but I have to look into the heart thing a little more because that's a bit interesting. So look into crocs and see how they correlate to birds, where that branching would likely have been. See, stuff like that's just super interesting. Far more interesting than Seth beget blah 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 and blah blah beget blah 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 and smash your babies on the rocks because it'll make you happy. You know, which is better to expose yourself to? Kick-ass science facts or stories of rape, incest, and genocide? Yeah, I know which ones I'm taking. Certainly not the ones that involve people killing each other. Just saying.
exactly what one would expect if birds and crocodiles descended from a common ancestor. Well, as you can see, all of these premises rely on feeding you an inaccurate picture of the science that really exists. So, why is the science so bad? Despite Hovind's claim of being a foremost authority, he has almost no science background at all. He claims to have a PhD from a place called Patriot University. Well, this is the course listing from Patriot University, and interestingly, Patriot University does not offer a PhD. It does offer a doctorate of ministry in Christian education, where one would be taking Old Testament, New Testament, Christian education, and some electives. Patriot University offers almost no science courses at all: the Bible and science, creation and the collapse of evolution, medical science and the Bible, the biblical basis of modern science, and a health, nutrition, and first aid course. But that's about it. And in order to matriculate at Patriot University, one sends in love offerings. I can imagine what kind of grades you'd get if you sent in love offerings every month, and I sure wish I'd been able to pay my tuition that way. Patriot University is located in a house in Alamosa, Colorado. It used to be located in a house in Colorado Springs, and there is no outward evidence that this house is Patriot University. A website run by Christians who evaluate Christian distance learning centers calls PU a diploma mill. So am I being elitist?
And then the coup de grace, that beautiful teardown of Patriot University. Just stabbing right at the core of the matter, and yet 30 years later, Kent is still defending his degree from there. What a fucking joke.
And snooty here will know more than the rest of you. All of you have turned to professionals for medical or mechanical advice, and you assume a level of professional expertise. If you have a broken leg, do you want to get a doctor who graduated from U of I or one who learned medicine on his own? If you have a union card, did you get that by an apprenticeship or by workbooks and home study? Science is no different, and the practitioners of science also need to have a certain level of expertise, and this is most easily achieved by studying science at a university. Well, Hovind will now whine ad hominem or something like that. I'm not attacking him for his religious beliefs. It's the lousy science I'm after.
And look, she even addresses it at the end of her statement there, is that it's not ad hom. It's a matter of the science and the lie of credibility, the illusion of value in the discussion that Kent portrays himself to have.
Karen Bartelt here is using an ad hominem argument, attacking me personally. Whether
And then he's just like, she's doing an ad hom. No. Let's go back to what she said.
At a university. Well, Hovind will now whine ad hominem or something like that. I'm not.
And she called it, and that's exactly what he fucking does.
Attacking him for his religious
Fucking clown,
beliefs. It's the
Hovind.
lousy science I'm after.
Karen Bartelt here is using an ad hominem argument, attacking me personally. Whether I have a degree or not is not the issue. Where my degree is from is not the issue. What am I?
It is the issue when you use your degree to try to prop up yourself as an authority on the subject when you're not.
Saying is the issue. The university she teaches at is a small college in Eureka, Illinois. I grew up not very far from that area. I'm very familiar with that region. And when President Reagan was there, it was...
You know, Kent, if your degree is that irrelevant to the discussion, why do you always have yourself portrayed as doctor? And I get your comment's going to be, you can call me anything you want. You can call me Bubba. You can call me whatever. That's irrelevant. You portray yourself as Dr. Kent Hovind, Dr. Dino. With a doctorate that's bullshit, but you also say is irrelevant even if it was or wasn't, it doesn't matter, then quit using it to advertise yourself.
a very, very small college, and yet their claim to fame is that it's the college of President Reagan. The size of the college doesn't matter. Darwin's degree was in theology, and yet I'm sure Karen Bartelt and many others think of him as being a great scientist. So to attack the college is simply not a valid argument. But
others have discussed the nuance of Darwin's, education and the like far better than I ever could. It suffices to say his degree, excuse me, his degree was irrelevant. He was a naturalist on the Beagle. At that time, it was just a different world for that, shall we say, branch of science that would evolve, no pun intended, into modern biology.
By the way, my degree is a
Biology, zoology, and all that jazz.
PhD, Doctor of Philosophy in Education, and we'll show you a picture of that.
Yeah, and the degree comes from a place that's a bunch of shit. I can make up one for myself. Remember, Kent, I've got 5 PhDs. So get fucked.
I'm sick of these archaic arguments being trotted out as proofs of a young Earth or evidence against evolution. And if an atheist like Richard Dawkins went off the deep end and started spouting this stuff, I would be happy to come up here and slug it out with him. So let the questions begin. I'm ready.
Smoke weed every day.
And of course, AJ's got to add in his stuff at the end. Oh, man. So, yeah, that was her opening statement, her absolute decimation of soon to be prisoner 06452017. Just so perfect. And yet, Kent still had to put this out, to publish this in one of his videotapes, but he had to add the commentary. That's the key takeaway, that he had to address it, but even then, didn't actually pay attention to what she said, especially at the end with the whole, he's going to claim ad hominem, but, and then he immediately claims ad hominem. It's fucking hilarious. So, thank you, AJ, for excerpting this for us all to see. Thank you for watching. Shout out to Karen for 3 decades ago tearing into Kent Hovind. You are one of the many pioneers who set the stage for people like me, AJ, and the like to do what we do. We may not be the most refined people. We may be very crass and having fun with it, but that's just the nature of it, and I doubt you would honestly care that we're doing such. So again, thanks everyone for watching. Catch you next time. Chair go squeak. Seriously, I need to lubricate this chair. It's oil it. It's a squeak fest whenever I lean. All right, later.